Fears and anxiety has heightened in the Nigeria town of Owo and Nigeria generally after a gun attack on the church after Sunday service. According to eyewitness, gunmen fired into the congregation and kidnapped a priest as well as some other churchgoers. No figures for the numbers killed or abducted in Sunday's violence have been confirmed. Reuters news agency quoted a doctor at a local hospital saying that several worshippers were brought in dead. Nigeria has experienced an upsurge in violence in recent months. Nigerians say they do not feel safe at all. Listen to Nigerian journalist Babatunde Koiki speaking to me earlier.
Despondence. It's one of despondence, it's one of fear, it's one of severe heart palpitations, because like I said earlier on, nobody knows where the next attack is going to take place. Nobody in a million years believed that a passenger train was going to be hijacked. Nobody in a million years believed that an airport was also going to be attacked. Nobody in a million years believed that a time will come in Nigeria where buses will be hijacked on the highway and passengers dragged off for kidnap and ransom. So it's quite tough times that we're living in Nigeria, mainly because of the security situation. As I speak to you, not even the Nigerian state can predict where the next attack is going to happen. Well, to be honest, Aisha, the threat actually ramped up in the last decade, but it's actually been in existence for the last almost 2 decades. Boko Haram has been started an insurgency in the northern part of the country, the northeast. It spread to the northwest. It spread to central parts of the country. So it's been around for almost 20 years. We've been living with it. Children born in this generation now are born into a country that has been riven by insurgency. And to be honest, and to be fair, the Buhari government have spent more than any other Nigerian governments in recent history in terms of purchasing arms and ammunition and weaponry, equipment to combat these things. They've bought fighter jets, they've bought armored vehicles, they've increased the troop mobilization to these spots. But it has not been enough for the simple reason that the enemy that they are fighting is not a conventional army. These are splinter terrorist cells of a small division of people who are not willing to face tanks or in pitched battles. They are very light, they move around quickly, they disseminate information and
The development has created quite some tensions in neighboring countries, including Ghana, with citizens appreciating the reality of threats of terrorism and how close it is to us. I've been joined on phone by Emmanuel Bombande, his former UN senior mediation advisor and conflict resolution expert, for more on this. Mr. Bombande, I'm grateful for your time this afternoon. Hello, Mr. Bombande.
Is that what you also learned?
Hello, Mr. Bombande.
Yes, hello, I can hear you.
Now,
good afternoon.
What does what we are seeing in Nigeria mean to Ghana, knowing how close we are with Nigeria, coupled with the fact that we've recently been alerted on possible threat attacks?
Well, first of all, it is always too near. And when you talk about the context of Nigeria, it reverberates very actively in our own jurisdiction. But we must also understand that the anxiety is increasing precisely because of the nature of the attacks in Nigeria. Now, when you were talking with your colleague, journalist from Nigeria, he described the character of urban violence. And if you listen to him, a lot of the terrorist attacks of Boko Haram, which basically is also the perception amongst a majority of Nigerians, is that it was mainly restricted to the northern states and cities and towns of Nigeria. But the attacking Owo, which is in the southwest of Nigeria, brings a new dimension in terms of proximity also to Ghana, because we interact more closely with the southern cities of Nigeria than the northern cities. And the attack in Owo, in a relatively peaceful compared to other states, which is absolutely a terrorist attack raises the prospects of the spread and the capacity of these terrorists to operate with impunity, and it appears that the state security of Nigeria is not able to stop them. And I think this would be part of the reason why I feel it continues to be very close to us and it continues to raise the anxiety. But do not forget about the public narrative about violence in general, but the type of violence which we are talking about, which is a direct terrorist attack. And no wonder your colleague says nobody knows when the next attack will take place.
Mr. Mabade, speaking with the Nigerians themselves, you get a sense of fear and mistrust for the very people who are mandated to provide security for them. I mean, that's very bad. What then is the way forward for the sub-region and by extension Ghana?
So you have to look at it at two levels. We talk more about the competency and the capability of the security agencies to respond. And to that extent, when you look at the context of terrorist violence in Nigeria, we normally tend to analyze this capability of the Nigerian security forces. But I think what Nigeria has not been able to do sufficiently is to ensure there is a public outreach that complements the security. Because terrorism, and as your colleague explained, the asymmetric nature of the violence is not something that only the security agencies on their own can be able to curb. Though they are the frontline and it's their responsibility, to what extent is the general public helping? But the reason why the general public in Nigeria is not also sufficiently engaged is because of the divisive narrative in which the suspicions alongst North-South, Christian, Muslim, has sustained what you might call the environment of recruitment, both of terrorists, but also of a narrative of a divide. And I think they continue to struggle in this type of milieu. So then if I relate it to our own jurisdiction, our own context in Ghana, one, the campaign, if you see something, say something, absolutely should be widened, deepened, and other state agencies must join the security to spread the message. And whilst doing that, the frontline agencies of security can be indicating to the general public exactly what they should be reporting, what they should be able to do in case of an attack. But let me quickly add here that that is only the response side. Let me take another minute to talk about what I call the structural dimension. And in Nigeria, the structural dimension has not helped their situation. We have been doing much better, but we are beginning to see ugly signs. Now, when I talk about the structural dimension, how are we strengthening our social cohesion? How are we strengthening our sense of unity? How are we ensuring that the underlying issues that makes it possible for terrorists to recruit or exploit a divisive society does not sustain itself in Ghana? And let me take this opportunity to say that when political propagandists, for example, try to justify the building of a national cathedral on the basis that Muslims are the national mosque, it's a very dangerous and toxic discourse, because those who are propagating such a message know very well that the variables are different. They know that the enclave of the national mosque was already in the Islamic school grounds, and with the support of the Turkish government, directly led by the president of Turkey, Erdogan, our Muslim community has had a magnificent mosque built. Nothing to do with the taxpayers' money. Now, when you go to town with this knowledge, but you deliberately propagate a false propaganda, you are showing, in my view, the early ingredients of latent disunity between Muslims and Christians. Because then the discourse becomes divisive. And that's exactly what terrorists want. To be able to go in between you and say that the Christian majority in Ghana is using the state over the minority who are Muslim. And because of that, Muslims then could be seen as the marginalized. And because they are the marginalized, then they should be supported for them to experience justice. And this then becomes a feeding ground for the breeding of terrorism. And so that example, in my view, is a critical area of a public conversation that we must not politicize beyond what is unacceptable, that even goes to the extent of adding a religious divide, something that we might not be able to deal with. But of course, this takes time, but cumulatively, it is those grievances that increase the divide, and that becomes a source of exploitation by terrorists. So I'm also using this opportunity to advocate and to appeal that political propagandists must understand that there has to be a Ghana for you to be able to succeed in your politics. If you create a public discourse that is toxic and divisive, and we begin to experience what Nigerians are experiencing, even if you win political power or continue to win political power, you will have no country to govern. And I think that we need to be very honest, frank, and dispassionate in this sort of conversation, so that at the structural level, we do not allow the disunity that becomes the recruiting ground for terrorism.
I'm grateful for your time. Emmanuel Bombande, he's a conflict resolution expert and former executive director of WANEP. And here in Ghana, some residents of the Techima municipality in the Bono East region are appealing to government to intensify its See Something, Say Something campaign to help create awareness and sensitize the populace on the need to stay vigilant with the lingering terrorist threats in the West African sub-region, with the Techima Central Market attracting traders from neighboring Burkina Faso, Mali, Nigeria, Togo, Cote d'Ivoire and Niger. These residents say the municipality could be target of these terrorist groups if measures are not taken to halt their possible entry into the country. And Asabit has more.
Over the past few months, there is a heightened threat of terrorist attacks globally from groups or individuals motivated by several factors, and Ghana cannot be ruled out following a spate of terrorist attacks in neighboring countries and the lingering political and ethnic tensions at home. With the strategic location of the Techima Central Market, which attracts all sorts of people from the entire country and other neighboring countries, we hit the streets to engage some residents about their fears so far as these terrorist threats are concerned. Murtada Mohammed is a resident and a tutor at the Al Farouk College of Education. He described the situation as worrying.
I listened to the news on Joy TV, and then a lot of people after that were commenting about it. And then, it's something that is so worrying. It's a worrying issue, and everybody is so much alarmed in our community.
With Zongo communities being a hub for strangers from all walks of life, Murtada Mohammed calls on residents to be extra careful in dealing with strangers.
Zongo is a community where we have a lot of people coming in and then going out of the community at any time. We are not in the normal times. Therefore, now things have changed. So we have to also change our styles of kind of a relationship in the community. So the first time we come across strangers, we don't have to open up to them. We have to treat them as kind of a possible element of terrorism so that we can stay safe in the community.
Just like Murtada Mohammed, Christian Techijan, a resident and a banker, also expressed worry at the situation and noted that the location of the Techima Central Market could attract attacks from these terrorist groups.
It's a worrying development because if you look at our neighboring countries, they've been experiencing it with the possible imminence of terrorist attack in Ghana. I think it's a very worrying news. It used to be abstract, but it is as close to us as just about Togo. So it's something that is quite worrying.
His major concern, however, has to do with the fact that the populace are not much alert about the situation at hand.
Some of us with our activity, always roaming in the market and checking people around, I don't really see that high alertness as far as the citizenry is concerned. On the institution front, yes, there is that high alert, but on the general citizenry and their everyday activity, you don't see anything extraordinary being done to curtail it.
Member of Parliament for the area who doubles as the Deputy Minister for Local Government, Martin J. Mensah-Kosa, called on the general public to report strange faces and characters within their various communities by adhering to the Security Ministry's See Something, Say Something campaign.
The very location of Techiman, its centrality, makes us more prone. The approach being adopted by national security is to involve all of us as citizens. We should open our eyes, we should be alert, very attentive, detect and report. It's been so rightly termed, See Something, Say Something. It's a campaign that involves everybody. We should all be watchdogs of our neighborhood. Look out for characters, whose identity, movements, presence raises questions.
He was, however, quick to add that residents should bear with the various security checkpoints at the entries in order to help identify such threats.
Satisfactorily, I think there is enough police presence at almost all those entry points, effectively policing and monitoring people who go in, who come out. And we'll just ask ourselves as citizens to bear with the police, especially in this crucial time where we are fighting this terrorism menace, so that we are all safe.
Both Murtada Mohammed and Christian Tichijan have suggestions on what needs to be done to ensure the people are safe.
The market is a very vast one, and the number of people that come in from outside is huge. So it's important that the sensitization exercise is done on a broader spectrum so that we'll be able to eradicate it.
I want to take this opportunity to kind of inform the imams that when they mount the podium or the pulpit at the mosque on Fridays, they should try as much as possible to include in their sermon these issues regarding educating the masses on how to protect themselves regarding this issue of terrorism.
Anas Sabit, Joy News, Techiman.
From security, let's move on to health, because some schools in Accra are sounding the alarm over an increase in cases of sore throats and other COVID-19 symptoms among students. According to a notice intercepted from one of these schools to parents, there's a sharp rise in the number of students who report to the school sick bay with sore throats, cold, and severe headaches. The school is asking parents to keep out of the schools such students until they are treated, and those who are brought to school will not be allowed into the classroom. Let me share details of the latest information from the Ghana Health Service. And right on your screens, you can see that there is a rise in COVID-19 cases. Now, active cases have been indicated on the scoreboard. Now, you can see that out of the 16 regions, 9 regions have now been having cases. The cases are rising in nine regions. At the time that the president lifted most of the restrictions, it was just Greater Accra that had cases. But now you can see that 9 regions out of the 16 regions now have cases. I'll share the scoreboard with you shortly from the Ghana Health Service. You can see active cases, almost 100, and then you can see other information that has been provided by the Ghana Health Service. But joining me for more on this is Dr. John Amoisi. He's a public health expert and lecturer at the KNUST. I'm grateful for your time, Dr. Amoisi, and sorry for keeping you for that long.
Very well, Aisha. It's good to have you this morning.
Right.
And greetings to everyone who's watching and listening.
This is worrying coming from the Ghana Health Service that cases are increasing after we had some time we can call free time when many people stayed away from masks. What is accounting for the recent rise in cases in Ghana?
No, thanks, Aisha, and greetings once again. I think it's really important to take a step back and try to understand what might be happening right now. I'll just share with you a couple of things that can shed a bit more light on this. When you begin to see this upsurge, as has been reported by the Ghana Health Service, what that tells you is that, I mean, this started a while ago, maybe about 2 or maybe a little more than 2 weeks ago. Normally, when you begin to see this, uptick in the cases on the board, which is a reflection of the surveillance activity, then it means that some things have gone on significantly before. It's comforting to realize that while we have this uptick in number of cases, it has not resulted in any deaths as far as I know, no change in the number of deaths, which is a good sign, but it doesn't necessarily mean that all is well. It's important to realize that the time or the time of the year in which we are now is your typical flu season. And COVID-19 is a flu-like illness or flu kind of illness. So what you're going to have is you'll have an upsurge in symptoms of diseases which are flu-like. Your cough, your headache, your fever, sore throat, joint pains. These go up in this time in May, June, especially July. And the peak normally is in July towards the end and then entering into August. So what you're having is an increase in the number of COVID cases, but also in the number of other non-COVID flu type of illnesses. Well, first of all, it's really important not to attribute every case of sore throat and running nose and so on to COVID. The other part of this, which is really important to note, and it's two things that I want to point out here, which may account for this upsurge, is first of all, we stopped the testing at the airport, and this was perfectly in order. Let me re-emphasize that stopping the testing, the antigen-based testing at the airport, was the right thing to do at the time it was done. I really want to make this very clear, because the thing about public health or global health, for that matter, is you need to make rational decisions based on the data and the evidence available, and that is just what was done. However, what this means is that you're trading off your visibility for improvement in the comfort of the people or of travelers, which is just fine. But antigen testing or testing at the airport is certainly a less porous approach than just verifying vaccination among travelers. Because as you know, even people who are vaccinated, fully vaccinated, are able to get COVID. And what happens is that when they get it, their disease is often milder and hardly would they ever die from the disease. And this is what the evidence shows us. But what another point is that when we talk about full vaccination, we're talking about having received 2 jabs. A lot of people are not boosted. And so people may have received their last jab or the second jab over a year ago, which means that their level of immunity will wane. What we also know is that if you received a booster dose, you are significantly in a better position or better protected than those who've received 2 jabs. And very interestingly, so far, the evidence is showing that a 4th jab does not necessarily help much more than having a 3rd jab, which tells you that boosting with a 3rd jab is really the way to go. We're checking vaccination at the airport, which means that it's certainly a slightly more porous system than testing at the airport, which means that there'll be people coming in who will inadvertently bring the virus in. Then you have a large population of children, who are not vaccinated, because we did not have a mandate to vaccinate children in Ghana, which means that there's a lot of unvaccinated people who are children in Ghana. So it's not surprising at all. This combination of perhaps people coming in with the virus and having a huge population of children who are unvaccinated is why we're seeing it in children. Now, the worry is that if the children pass this on to unvaccinated adults, then we could increase our chances of more severe disease and ultimately death. And this is what you don't want. So what needs to be done is we push the vaccination and push the boosting. Even if you've been vaccinated, we had 2 jabs, going for that 3rd jab, it's free, it's highly effective, highly protective. There's no reason why one shouldn't do that. So definitely pushing the vaccination is important, and also studying the numbers very carefully and deciding whether at some point we want to reintroduce testing at the airport. I mean, if things do continue this way, I wouldn't be surprised if the authorities decide to reintroduce testing at the airport. It will be an inconvenience, but it wouldn't be the wrong thing to do if things continue to go up this way. And definitely the advice from the schools is totally on point. If you have a flu, if you're unwell, don't come to school. Don't bring your child to school. Don't come into the office. And definitely the mask wearing is highly encouraged. I wouldn't be surprised if we begin to get some encouragement to wear more of the mask in public places. I think this is how I'd like to look at it. So far, no cause for alarm per se, but if things continue to go up, then we can move into what I call the danger zone, where people who are at higher risk of severe disease and possibly death might come into the fray. And that's what you really don't want to happen. It's early days and we have every chance to nip this in the bud.
I'm grateful for your time. Dr. John Amoisi is a public health expert and lecturer at KNUST. An 18-year-old has been confirmed dead at Tesano in Accra when raging flood water swept her into a storm drain. This follows almost 2 hours of Sunday morning downpour. According to residents, the 18-year-old tried to salvage her slippers, which fell into a small drain but fell, and subsequently raging water swept into a storm drain.
This is Navi, mother of the 18-year-old Mary, who drowned in a drain at Tesano. During Sunday's downpour, Mary went chasing after her slipper and slipped into the drain and breathed her last. Abigail is a relative of the deceased. She told me she called her children who were selling maize to come home when the rain started, but they never came. She later heard that one of her children fell into a drain and drowned. She was trying to remove her slipper that fell in the drain. Prince Enchi is an eyewitness.
One of the siblings was standing close to where the incident happened. She did not call anyone's attention to it. By the time we realized, she was caught under the flood water. There was nothing we could do. She was lifeless when we got there.
He says Mary would have been alive if the drain was properly constructed.
Straight and on my corner there side into pressure no about na ba pim na ebuafa so and any problem I cause one my high pa.
Navi is still in denial of what has happened to her daughter. Mary, I want to die in your stead. Please come back home.
Sani paton so ma onum nso kakra. Mi banu anum nso.
For now, the body of the deceased has been removed by the police and deposited at the morgue. Emma Davis for Joy News.
Mary man not the quality and never can asa me hunansanamada.
We'll take a break. When we return, there's the very latest coming from business.
Hello and welcome. My name is Beverly Broom. Government statistician Professor Samuel Kobnainim has highlighted price variation of commodities at market centers across the country as a problem that needs fixing. According to him, imported rice in 5 outlets in Cape Coast, for instance, is in excess of 100%, a situation he says is unacceptable. He was delivering his inaugural lecture at the University of Cape Coast.
The human factor in the variations in our prices during economic turmoils are pretty significant. 2018, nothing was happening. You see the stability in prices across the 54 outlets. During the COVID-19 pandemic, you see the variations, and during the Russia invasion of Ukraine, you see stark variations across the 54 markets, with some outlets selling a 5 kg of imported rice, specifically Gino rice, over 108 Ghana cedis. I took the pain to check just last week, and it's just 63 Ghana cedis somewhere in Accra. I did say in my last release that households have been deprived of information on prices. Indeed, if you take the data on Cape Coast outlets alone, 5 of them, Cape Coast outlets alone, you see a variations in excess of 100%.
Away from that, the Ahafo North Youth Coalition is appealing to aggrieved farmers and residents in the Ahafo North mining communities of Newmont, Ghana, to explore available redress channels instead of the court. Over 200 projects affected people in the communities are in court to halt the operation of the company over the valuation of their properties and compensation differences. But the coalition believes dialogue is the best approach as the communities and the youth stand to benefit in development and employment. Precious Semevo has more in the following report.
Plaintiff Enoch Kofi and 128 others are at the Sunyani High Court seeking to halt Newmont Ahafo North mines from going ahead to value their lands and other structures and pay compensation subsequently. This is a result of trust issues in the valuer chosen by the Resettlement Negotiation Committee. However, the Ahafo North Youth Coalition says any attempt to delay the project will have far-reaching consequences on the communities and the youth, with about $850 million expected to be injected into the economy. They therefore appeal to the aggrieved individuals to explore the avenues available to resolve their differences to ensure that Tetre, Adroba, Susuanso, Afrisipa, and Yamfo are not denied the expected development and youth employment. Richard Adayebua, the second vice chairman of Ahafo North Youth Coalition, addressed the press.
We are disturbed by this development, and it has far-reaching implications and can impact the single most important economic intervention in the Ahafo North area as ever witnessed. We believe it will serve as a catalyst for community development, youth employment, and many opportunities for the youth in the area. Project development can have some social, economic, and environmental impact. But we believe that the best way of managing this impact is through healthy dialogue and not court injunction. That freezes the entire development. We therefore appeal to the individuals involved in this course action to bring their issues to the table for discussion, whilst paving way for the project development.
He further stated that while they will not watch for the activities of the mining company to negatively affect residents, they will also resist attempts to frustrate the process for selfish gains.
The coalition is passionate about this because of the impact of Newmont Ghana present in the area, even though mining operation has not started, including the award of scholarships, economic empowerment, employment opportunity, among others. Due to this impasse, all these benefits and the ongoing project of the various community has been put on hold. Whilst we will not allow Newmont Ghana Company to impact people negatively, we will also not compromise with anyone who would like to hold the project into ransom to the detriment of the youth, genuine farmers, property owners, and community members in the 5 Ahafo North community.
Precious Semevo, Joy Business, Tetre.
That's all for business now, but we have more business stories when you log on to myjoyonline.com. Up next is sports.
Let's do sports now. On Joy News today with me, Muftar Nabila Abla. Black Stars coach Ochoado has defended his decision to make 7 changes to his starting lineup in their group game against Madagascar, Central African Republic in the ongoing 2023 African Cup of Nations qualifiers. He believes the team was good enough to win, so he's unhappy with the outcome of the match.
I think the team was not weak. We had a lot of ball possession. The problem was the goal we conceded. This was a big problem because Central Africa was motivated by that. And the last third we didn't have much runs in behind the last line. So there we had a problem to break through. It was a big problem. And yeah, we had some injuries also. We had some players who were sick. And also some players have weak legs. So that's why I decided to change. We have, to be honest, it's difficult now to say this is the first team, this is the second team. We have good players. They play in good leagues. It's also in the first match very, very close to seconds. It's not like some players are here and some are here. This is not the case. So they're happy to get a point, and we're not happy, but we played draw. We didn't lose. Surely we want to win our home games. And as you see also now with Angola, it's difficult to play away sometimes. And it's different if you play at home, the fans are behind you, they're pushing you, sometimes this is different. You know, so we want to make sure it will be a different game, and we want to make sure that we win our home games.
Still on the Black Stars, striker Richmond Boache Iyadom says home-based players must work twice as hard as their colleagues based in Europe to be considered good enough to play for the national team. According to him, the European environment gives them an advantage over those who play in the domestic scene.
Well, I think most of the local players have great talent. I was also a local player before I went outside. You have to have a why. Why am I part of this team now? So if you have a why in you, it makes you one of the best. If you don't have a why, then you feel like, oh, they called me, I'm lucky, and you come back and like they called me to the Black Star just saying it. But no, if you have a why and you go there, you greet good morning to senior players, okay, but on the pitch you make them know, I'm not here to make friends, I'm not here as a local player, I'm here as a Black Star player. You put the local player behind you, because when you wear the jersey, you are not the local player now. Even though you play in the local league, but when you wear the jersey, you are a Black Star player. You train as you came. When I'm coming to the national, you are taking my food away from me. So if I'm coming from the local team, I'm coming to take what you've been enjoying in Europe. There have to be a competition. If the competition does not exceed the European player, you have a problem. Because the European player is coming with something that he is ahead of you in terms of equipment, in terms of some exercise, in terms of some sprinting, in terms of experience level, where the fans are full in the stadium with their confidence level. If you put me from Bechim compared to now, I'm more different now. Because when I was in Bechim, you put me in a game playing like AC Milan on the first time of my career, there is a little bit like, hey, you know, you're a little bit shaking. You're playing against the likes of Ronaldinho. So if you come to the Black Stars, you see Midday, you see Jordan, you feel a little bit timid. This is where your training becomes different. People are not seeing that in the training ground, but people are using what you are playing in maybe the local league to tell you, oh, he's this, he's that. But when you go there, what do you show the coach? That I am a local player, but if you give me an opportunity, I'll swallow 3-4 players here. There have to be this mentality and this why. Why are you playing? Why are you in the national team? You are there because they picked you to be one of the best. So you have to increase the level of your running, of everything. Because even if I'm a coach, excuse my language if I'm wrong, and nobody should hold my words against me.
That is Richmond Boache Iyadom speaking about local Black Stars players. He says you must work twice as hard as those domiciled in Europe to get a place in playing for the Black Stars. And this is our wrap-up sports here on Joy News Today. You can head on to myjoyonline.com and read some more sports stories. Up next is World News.